Alabama should continue to be one of the top 15, top 10, probably even top 5 teams in college football, but there is a chance they could potentially slide back just because we have seen wrong coaching hires, and it is not easy to follow up the GOAT, and that is exactly what I think Nick Saban is. Still crazy the timing of him and Belichick retiring so close to each other too, but when you're talking about why this Utah team could be in position to take a step forward, to me, if Alabama does slip, this is a Utah team that has 91 wins in the last 11 years. Only 15 teams who have spent the entirety of that tenure in the Power 5 can say that. And it's the same thing when you shrink it just to the last 4 years, Utah is still in the top 15 in wins. And one thing that's impressive, too, of them staying there in the top 4 is they did, of course, deal with not just a slew of injuries, but didn't have Cam Rising it back at all this year. So the starting quarterback, such an important part of your team, and you're still able to stay within those marks and rankings. This is a Utah football program that has been extremely consistent under Kyle Whittingham these last few years. And look, we can talk about how long he's going to stay, but at least for the immediate future, I feel like Utah football is set up to continue to succeed and continue to ascend amongst college football program if Alabama and maybe even some of these other programs have a little bit of a slippage.
I think Nick Saban's exit from Alabama applies to Utah more than Utah fans probably realize. I think Nick Saban's exit applies to the top half of the Big 12 more than most Big 12 fans realize, because what it does is it starts to cut down one of college football's, it is the greatest dynasty in college football history, especially in the modern era, and it's done. That era has ended. I read an ESPN article this week that said Saban out at Alabama ends college football's best dynasty. It ends. That's it. The catalyst, the one who built that's the one who's gone. Now, if you're I'll be candid. If you're a Cincinnati fan, this does not apply as much to you. If you're a Baylor fan, if you're a Houston fan, there are teams that are behind the punch right now enough that it's not going to affect you in the immediate future. However, if you're a Utah, who I think is going to be at the top of the Big 12 and have a shot to go to the college football playoff, remember, 12 teams go. The Big 12 should get 3 teams in a 5+7 format, 3 of them in the college football playoff. In that case, I don't see how Utah is not one of those. So if you're a Utah, if you're in Arizona, if you are a West Virginia, which is a wild thing to say, but the amount of production they return is going to be huge, Oklahoma State or Kansas State, I think there are 7-8 teams that could win the Big 12. For any of those, the reason that Nick Saban's departure is massive for you is because when you get to the college football playoff, the biggest domino that has been there for 15 years is gone. You don't have to topple the king. You don't have to topple the big dog. When LeBron James retires, we're going to look around the NBA and say, well, who's the guy that we compare everybody else to? Who's the one that everybody's showing up to the stadium to see? Who's the one that we have to beat at the very end? The boss level. That boss level is gone in college football. It's going to help. Now, when Utah gets to the college football playoff and plays Alabama, it's not, Nick Saban in the playoff, that one's automatic. No, it's, I like Utah in this matchup. This changes it levels the playing field, changes the playing field at the top of college football. Cincinnati, hold. Utah, this is big for you.
It is. It's absolutely massive. And I think you make a fantastic point about, hey, if you get there, so often it was like, you're going to have to get through Nick Saban. And it doesn't matter if it's Jalen Milroe, Mac Jones, Jalen Hurts. It doesn't matter. Alabama always found a way to be there, and they're not. And I mean, I'm old enough, Drake, to remember when, for as crazy as it might sound to people who listen to this, be like, Alabama's not going to fall off. Mm-hmm. I recently watched The Blind Side again from a few years ago. There's a scene in The Blind Side where all of the college coaches are coming in to recruit the main character. And everyone, Nick Saban included at the time at LSU, acts like it's over when Tennessee walks in. Now, not Jeremy Pruitt, I almost messed it. Josh Heupel, has done a good job bringing them back a little bit, but by no means anymore does Tennessee walk into a room and everyone's like, oh man, like it's over. And it's the same thing. And Alabama became that, like, oh man, it's over. Nick Saban, he's also gone as well. So even recruiting wise, the ramifications that can have of divvying up some of the top talent. Obviously, those players that were going to Alabama, probably not going to be Utah guys, but there could be ramifications still of the fallout of those guys going other places that can still benefit Utah too. So it is a wide-reaching, whether you're talking about Utah's place amongst the best teams in college football, whether you're talking about Utah's place as a contender to continue to have success in the college football playoff, and even in recruiting. Everyone and so many programs and just teams benefit from Saban leaving because of what a dynasty Alabama has been. And just one other thing on how good Utah has been. When you're talking about teams that have gone back-to-back as Pac-12 championships over the course of the last 3 years. Only Michigan has three-peated as a conference champion. Even Georgia, surprisingly, we did forget the year they won the national championship the first time. They actually did lose to Bryce Young that year and Alabama. That's what makes this Nick Saban team incredible. Even Kirby Smart, the heir apparent, they find a way to beat them too. But this Utah team went back-to-back, excluding this year, the two before. Them and Michigan are the only ones in the Power 5, now, of course, the Power 4 level to do that. So this Utah team is here to stay, and I think they're ready to continue to find that success.
I'll remind you, it was Philip Fulmer was the Tennessee coach at the time when Michael Orr was being recruited. And in the movie, they had to do some mixing and moving because I believe when the movie was produced, it was actually Houston Nutt, who was the Ole Miss coach, but he was the Arkansas coach at the time they recruited him. Ed Orgeron was the Ole Miss head coach at the time he was recruited. So he had to put the old Rebs stuff on. Houston Nutt had to dress in his old Arkansas stuff. And Nick Saban came with an unbranded shirt because he was the Alabama coach playing the LSU coach in the movie, and Lou Holtz was in South Carolina. So there's your little movie tidbit there because Philip Fulmer was going to wipe the slate clean with everybody with Michael Orr. For Utah, though, yes. And we're going to get in the conversation over the course of the show about how Utah will be a team to beat. I don't know if there's the team to beat in the Big 12. You pull 15 people and say who's going to be the best team in the conference next year. Half might say Utah. A portion might say Arizona. Some are going to say Oklahoma State. Maybe a Kansas State or Kansas is thrown in there as well. So to me, Utah's been very good. I think they're going to continue to be. Did you guys hear that? Everybody clip it. Clip it. I came on this show and said Utah is going to be good. I believe that is the case. And that is why the ramifications of the Nick Saban move will be felt by Utah from the transfer portal. Because, look, players don't go play to wear Alabama across their chest. And what you just heard that sentence and you thought, that's the stupidest thing ever. Of course they do. No, they don't. Because when Nick Saban leaves, players they came to play for Nick Saban.
They already have.
Correct. Players don't go to play for, most of the Alabama recruits didn't grow up in Alabama. They grew up in Texas rooting for A&M. They grew up in Georgia rooting for the Dogs. They grew up in Florida rooting for the game. They got pulled away. This isn't about pride. They didn't go there because they rooted for Alabama their whole lives. They went there because Nick Saban recruited them. Without him, that recruiting empire is going to collapse or at least falter enough that a school like Utah has a shot at those players. And what's more, this is just going to stir the pot across the top of college football from a player standpoint and even a coaching standpoint. If Dan Lanning goes to Alabama, which we've heard he will not, but that opens something up. And then, well, what if Kyle Whittingham gets the call from Tuscaloosa, which you won't, but we start to have these conversations of how does that coaching vacancy affect other teams at the top of college football when the power coaches, look at like a Brian Kelly when he went to LSU, and those guys start moving around, a Jimbo when he went to A&M, that sends shockwaves everywhere.
Yeah, the waves of this are seismic and reach all levels of college football. And it's just going to be interesting to continue to see how it all trickles and plays out. But we mentioned Utah being set up for success even as soon as this year when it comes to them contending in the Big 12. One of the biggest moves just happened for Utah when it comes to doing exactly that, as they will have their number one pass catcher on this team, something they did not have in the 2023 season. I'm, of course, talking about Brant Kuithe. We're going to talk about what it means that he is back on this Utah football team for 2024 in one moment. But first, I want to talk to all of you about our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use. There are many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. There's also a place you can go to make a parlay in the Parlay Hub. It's the best way to find popular parlays, and there's so much more. So you can visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. Drake, any playoff matchups you got your eyes on this week in the NFL slate?
I have not looked at a single one. I am college football and only I don't know if I could tell you who the Packers and the Packers and the Cowboys. That's it. That's all I know.
I knew that. That's actually I'm so glad you brought that up because that's exactly the one I had brought up here with the Cowboys currently favored by 7. And I know some hype around Jordan Love and, the whole past omens of like, oh, the Packers beat the Cowboys. But I would put my money on the Cowboys to cover that. I like this team that they're rolling in as well. It'll be weird to see Mike McCarthy beat the Packers as well. That's something that'll be strange to see. But if you guys are liking all those NFL playoff lines, make sure you head over to FanDuel Sportsbook. Also want to talk to all of you about another sponsor of today's episode of Locked On Utes. It's our friends at UCCU. Learn and earn the UCCU mobile banking app that pays your entire family to learn about money. Kids look to parents to become more financially literate. Parents, they don't always know the answers. Learn and earn breaks down financial topics into fun, bite-sized educational games like quizzes and trivia. Every time a family member completes a topic, they earn points that can occur and can be redeemed for gift cards. Stores like Amazon, Apple, Sephora, Walmart, Nike, and more. There is age-appropriate content for every member of the family. We compete against each other and track their progress on leaderboards. Learn and earn is inside the UCCU mobile banking app, so you can play it anytime, anywhere. The more you play, the more you learn. And the more you learn, the more you earn. Learn and earn, part of UCCU's award-winning B-Money Smart Youth Banking Program, helping kids, teens, and parents have fun while becoming more financially literate together. UCCU, love where you bank.